nobody was complaining, right? Like when you talk to agents out in the field, there can tend to be a lot of complaining and just whining about the way things are and all the negativity. But what I really thought about when we were there at this event was just all the positivity, like you were saying, Justin. They were saying about how we are where we are, right? We can't change it. So how do we take where we are and move forward with it?
Hey everybody, my name is Brandon Adams with Messer Financial, and today we have some guests here that just recently got back from a huge trade show, and I'm going to be asking them some questions. So from left to right here, we have Justin McKim, Micah Matthews, and Mr. Jeff Street, all here at Messer. And they just, like I said, they just got back from a trade show. We all have a lot of questions about what's going on in the marketplace today. And so we just wanted to jump in and ask you guys how that trade show was and what you got from it. So really the first question is, tell me about the trade show that y'all just came back from. It was out in Vegas, right?
Correct.
So, tell me about it. What did you do out there? What was the theme out there for this trade show?
I think there's a lot of excitement, for sure. It was definitely probably the biggest event we've seen yet.
Oh, really?
Out there. I think there's one thing that I really carried away from it is, there's always going to be change in this industry. While it's been very volatile for us over the last couple of years, there's a lot of opportunity still out there, right? And I think this provides folks like us an opportunity to continue to educate and just reassure people that are in this industry that it is still very vibrant and alive. And we can help be that guiding light for them and educate and explain to them where those opportunities really lie out there for them. So that was my biggest takeaway, but just a lot of excitement out there. And I really enjoyed our time. Saw a lot of our carrier partners out there and some great classes. And we've got two gentlemen here that presented on stage. I thought did a phenomenal job as well. They had a few technical difficulties. They didn't really have their slide deck, but they went out there and improvised and absolutely crushed it. Extremely proud of these guys. They did a phenomenal job. Had to be close to 400 agents in the room. And some of what I just said is some of what Micah and Jeff talked a little bit about is, hey, where there's change, there's opportunity. And I think we've seen a lot of people get out of this business, but that means there's more opportunity for those of us that are still in it. But I'll let them touch on it a little bit more. But again, just wanted to throw a shout out to my two dudes here. They did a phenomenal job. Very, very proud of them.
Nice.
Appreciate
Michael,
it.
what did you take away?
Thanks.
What did you take away out of the meeting, getting out there?
When you're around that many people that are super passionate about the industry like we are, they really care about it. They want to see it prosper. And whether they're competitors of ours or, affiliates or whatever the case may be, one thing I noticed, and I don't know if you guys saw this as well, nobody was complaining. Right, like when you talk to agents out in the field, there can tend to be a lot of complaining and just whining about the way things are and all the negativity, especially when you go onto these social media sites and everything else, and you just hear like everybody just constantly talking about all the changes and how it was detrimental to their business and all this other stuff. And those are valid points, but what I really thought about when we were there at this event was just all the positivity, like you were saying, Justin. They were saying about how we are where we are, right? We can't change it. So how do we take where we are and move forward with it and keep prospering and keep having these successful business and help each other? When we get together with everybody, it's the combining of ideas and thoughts on the industry that really make things really run well, and you're talking about what, 4,000, 5,000 people? I'm not sure how many. There were tons of people, and it can be overwhelming. But the classes obviously are incredibly beneficial to listen about, what's coming up. But to me, what I took the most out of it was the networking, was the ideas and talking to the competitors and people that are very successful in this business and just hearing their sides of perspective. Because when you're doing business, you have a tendency to only see things out of your own lens, right? And things can kind of get distorted. You can get down about things, and you kind of feel like you're in your own little world. But when you're talking about all these ideas with all these different points of view, I think gives you a different perspective and a positive refresher and more positivity to keep you going. And that's really why I feel much better about where we are in the space after having all those conversations with the carriers, with the agencies, with the lead vendors, with everybody that's in this business. It really is a smorgasbord of everybody, right? So I took a lot out of it.
I really like that point, though. I think, you touched on it. Oftentimes we might be talking to agents on the phone, and that's a one-on-one conversation, and they have valid points about where the industry is and how frustrating and how a lot of these changes have had impacts from a negative perspective, for them. But when we get to an event like this, just the overall energy and just positive vibes, I think we all feed off that, right? And I think that was really exciting, and I love that. I'm an optimist, so I'm always going to have those positive vibes. But truly felt that throughout the week.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where you're never losing, right? You're either winning or you're learning. And I think that was the biggest thing. We just focused on the learning, on how we can adapt and how we can make changes. And that's the biggest thing in a never changing business, right? Learning how to adapt and to be able to keep moving forward. So
love that.
I wouldn't have taken any negativity whenever I was there.
I like that statement. We're either winning or we're learning. I love that.
Yeah, I'm stealing that. Definitely stealing that.
Sorry, I trademarked it. Sorry.
Trademark.
I think overall, what I saw from an agent perspective is that the agents were willing to embrace the idea that they needed to evolve. You saw a lot of people interested in how they can start to sell other products that maybe they weren't doing before, a little bit like what we talked about in some prior conversations. And to these guys' point, the removal of a lot of speculation, you can get caught up looking at forums and chat bots and all these different things. And, agents start to worry when they start to hear a lot of that. So to be there with government officials from CMS, to hear things from their point of view, to hear things from the carriers, and to hear things from our competitors as well. I mean, we tend to have a fairly good relationship. It's very competitive, I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, we all are kind of in the same situation, right? So wherever our markets are headed, whatever our industry is doing, we're all going to have to find our way through that. And there's plenty of good agents. There's some bad ones out there, and we tend to be weeding those out, which is a good thing for overall. So a great few days together, a lot of opportunity to interact. And to these guys' point, you pick up on that energy from other people, and you start to feel good about where we are as an industry. And as many changes as there are coming or have happened in the last 24 months, I think we're still in a good place, and it's a huge opportunity for individual agents right now.
Nice. I think that's an interesting point too, Jeff, talking about our competitors. And you're right. I think we do have some pretty good relationships with our competitors. And it is very, very competitive out there, more so than ever before in this industry, right? But regardless of that fact, one of the things that I think has excited me over the last, over 24 months, where we've seen a lot of change, is that our industry is misrepresented when we start talking about from the political aspect, right? And some of the changes they've made, looking at the insurance industry as a whole. And I think we've seen a collective group of leaders in our industry come together, even though they're competitors, they've come together to, number one, fight for those agents each and every day and really educate the folks that are trying to make those decisions on the direction this industry is going. So that is something that I think is a strong takeaway too, is we have come together as a collective group to fight for this industry and to fight for those agents that depend on us to continue to fight for them, that they have a livelihood to continue to see week after week. So I think that's a really good point to notate.
And not only that, it's a great way to be heard. Our voice is heard, right? I mean, Jeff and I had the opportunity to actually sit in a class with, as he was saying, CMS, the people that actually work for CMS were there, and they got to hear our feedback. They were asking us questions, and to hear it from, again, the passionate people that really do care and multiple resources of people's ideas. I just don't think you can put a price on that.
Yeah, I mean, we want to be a part of the solution, right? We don't. I think if we focus on trying to get out in front and educate and try to be a part of the solution, that hopefully gives us an opportunity to, to avoid some of the mess that has been created in the past. So I think that's something else that we're really focused on here at Messer, especially is making sure that we are doing things the right way, guiding and advising our agents and agency partners to do things the right way, because we want to weed out those bad actors too, because that affects the entire industry, not just one agent or agency or FMO. It affects all of us. So, again, trying to be a part of the solution, I think is a big focal point for us as we continue to move forward through. This.
As an agent, I can tell you it's reassuring to see that CMS was out there. They were asking us questions. They got actual true feedback from the agents that are there, that are producing. And that's another thing, producing agents.
Yes.
They're doing a big chunk of business. They're seeing every little thing in the industry from a sales point. And, to know that CMS is there asking us questions to try to get this right. Because I can tell you from my point of view, I take my AHIP and then I try to abide by the CMS rules, but I have no idea who's making these rules. And, you don't really know what went in behind these. Sometimes you ask a question like, why is this the way it is? But being able to get in front of them, I think it's strong.
Yeah, I think there's been a presumption that CMS is the evil power that's in the room, and that's not necessarily the case. They were willing to listen to the agents, to us, to some of the organizations and associations that Roy is involved in. I don't think I've ever seen him more active in doing that at a high level with other individuals that own organizations similar to ours, is that they recognize that we have to get together and have a collective voice so that we're not misrepresented in some of these situations.
So you're talking about like organizations like NAFA that are
yes,
part of...
Yes, absolutely, because those organizations are tasked with representing all the individual producers that take the time to join it. So I think it's very important that they choose one of those organizations so that they do have a voice, and to be active with reaching out to their representatives to let them know. We've got to do a better job on our side to make sure that our story is heard. There's a current situation that's prevalent in our business right now of how you negotiate, right? And for whatever reason, the news or the media is not really focusing on what part that these large provider systems, whether that be a hospital or a doctor's group, plays in what's being charged or what's happening at the negotiation table, why suddenly somebody's in or out of network, and what's the reasoning behind that. And people are always just pointing the finger at the insurance carrier or the agent for being greedy, and everybody has to take ownership in that. So we've got to find a way to get back to where you can have a meaningful conversation across the table and find a win-win situation for everybody, so that ultimately the people that we're trying to get coverage for don't lose the doctors, the network that they want to be able to go to.
Yeah, it does seem like there's a little bit of finger pointing going around.
There's a lot of finger pointing going around.
Insurance companies and providers and just all the way around.
And the truth of it is everybody is in business to make money, but at what rate do you do that, and at what expense? And that's where we've got to get back to a balanced approach for everybody in this. We're talking about people's health.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I think that's a really interesting point, Jeff. I think that's a good segue into, another component that I think a lot of agents have questions about today is, we're in the middle of a 3 to 4 year reset in the Medicare Advantage market, right? And I think a lot of agents just don't know the what, the when, the why, like why is it happening and how does it impact us? I think one of the biggest things that happened was with COVID, a lot of the claims or the utilization went down because they weren't going for elective surgery. So these carriers had a surplus of money. So what did they do with that surplus of money? Let's put in these awesome OTC benefits, fitness benefits, dental going up to $4,000, a year. So you saw a lot of flashy benefits being added to these plans when that wasn't really the core of what these plans were designed to be. The core was to have coordinated care, to truly provide health care for and insurance for those clients. And so what we're seeing in this reset is they're pulling a lot of that back. And now that utilization and claims are picking back up again, they've got to make cuts to their benefits. And so it seems like it's gotten really bad here. But in all actuality, we're really kind of returning back to what this program was actually intended for, which are those core benefits to really protect those clients.
I think if Rhonda was in here, she'd probably smack me on the head to make sure I get this right. But all the carriers are required to spend a certain amount of money, or out of every dollar that they make, so much has to go back into the plan. So to Justin's point, I don't think we really forecasted the true impact of what COVID did in terms of utilization. So you've got a surplus of money because nobody was going to the doctor, so they had to reinvest that money back into the plan. So you get these ultra-rich benefits. And then as COVID subsides a little bit, or we move to the backside of a pandemic, now all of a sudden a lot of conditions that were manageable have become very chronic. Mm-hmm. And now utilization is through the roof. And we've continued to see medical inflation increase at a rate that maybe we haven't kept up with. So the plans have to reset. And we're really getting back to the core of what Medicare Advantage was about, which is health first.
Right.
And then all the other ancillaries included after that.
So the bigger, and I want to continue this conversation, but the bigger theme of this trade show, that was more of the senior side, the senior market.
Well, it started that way, but because agents are becoming multifaceted, I think there's just as much interest in the ACA, and Mike has got more of a finger on that. But your ACA clients of today are your Medicare clients for tomorrow. So it's imperative that these guys participate on both sides of the market.
Goes hand in hand. Yeah,
it does. So I'll let Micah talk a little bit about the changes that we've seen in the last couple of years on the ACA side, especially with the enhanced subsidies going away, not subsidies going away. So.
Well, and I really think that, especially over the last few years, we've realized that you really can't put all your eggs in one basket. I mean, sure, there are people that do that and they're successful, but I can tell you that being able to pivot wherever the opportunities are when they come up is just so crucial. We talk about it all the time that, this is a relationship business, and it doesn't matter what you're selling. I can't think of a better way to get an to get a Medicare client than to get them when they're under 65, right? I mean, because I built that relationship while they were under 65. Why wouldn't they do the Medicare with me as long as I know about the Medicare market and I'm able to do what's in the best interest of their family? I know their family. I know what their concerns are. Building those relationships are so crucial. And it's all the way from the top to the bottom, which is why, going back to the value of conferences like this, is the fact that CMS is there. The CMS, building a relationship with them, you don't think that that's crucial? It absolutely is. Building the relationship with the carriers, building a relationship with the FMOs, the agents, the clients, all the way up and down. I mean, so when you go to conferences like this, you've got your classes, which are very informational, right? You're getting a lot of good information on how to do certain things. Then you can have individual meetings with the carriers. That's a great conversation to have. There's all kinds of things that you can do to build strategies and all kinds of other things that can come out of those conversations. Then you can go and have the conversations with the FMOs and the agents and start figuring out how you can do any kind of collaboration and how you can help grow each other's business. At the end of the day, we are all, no matter who you are, trying to do the right thing. And that's helping as many people as we possibly can and also having a successful business. And if there's ways that you can blend ideas into that, that's what makes it so great. So, like I said, I mean, not just the information that are presented in the classes, but also the networking and the conversations and the individual meetings and all of that. It all combines to make it the most powerful kinds of conferences that you can possibly have.
I think too, it gave us an opportunity. Justin and I walked around a little bit. Mike and I walked around. I know, again, Roy spent a lot of time walking around. We were just looking to see if we're directing our ship in the correct direction. A lot of questions about AI and the future and technology and what role it's going to play in our industry, and having MIME-FG and the fact that we control what is put into MIME-FG and MIME-FG data. It was big for us to see, again, are we pointing in the right direction and meeting the needs of today's insurance agent? And I think we've got a pretty good path for that.
Well, that was one of the questions that I had about, AI and technology. What was the theme along the lines of that? I mean, did you see anything that was just stood out, or that you saw that was probably going to be something we're going to use in the future?
I will say one thing. Technology is great, and technology will allow us to become more efficient with some of our business needs, right?
Yep.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, the one thing that I always take away from this is, and I think Mike actually said this on stage, when you look at the ACA, 80% of the people in the federal marketplace have a broker, right?
Right.
So no matter how much technology is out there, that one-to-one interaction with an agent to validate or to seek guidance is always going to be there. So I think I've seen that from the day I walked into this business to today. And Micah said relationship. It is a relationship-based business, so brokers are always going to be needed. But that's a great question. And how do we utilize technology? Right. How do we utilize AI in a responsible way that allows us to continue to again, make our businesses more efficient, which ultimately means hopefully we're more profitable long term, right? But yet still keeping that personal interaction at the forefront of what you do, because I think ultimately that's what drives us. So I'll just start with that, and then I'll kick it over to these guys to provide some additional insights on maybe some of the technology pieces we saw.
Yeah, the technology and the AI will help you increase your business by reaching out to more people so you can contact more people, get your name in those relationships out there more. But again, it all comes down to that relationship. It's like I always say, every client can go to any agent and get the same exact product at the same exact price as what you're able to offer. There's a reason why they're doing business with you, and that's because of you. What the technology does is makes it easier to enroll people. It makes it easier to transfer information back and forth to each other. It makes it, again, able to reach out to more people at one time. And AI is also very good at being able to help service things and again, transfer the information to the clients. But at the end of the day, they want to make sure that the person that is making the decisions for you is doing it what's in your best interest. And the only way that you can truly do what's in someone's best interest is to know them and have a relationship on them to some extent. So really get to know them, work them, and find out exactly what it is that they're most concerned about and what their worries are. Because at the end of the day, what is insurance? It's peace of mind to know in the worst case scenario that you and your family is going to be protected. So find out what those concerns are and make sure that you alleviate them, because life can be scary and unknown is even scarier. I think that's probably the scariest thing on the planet is the unknown, right? So if you can say, hey, no matter what happens, because we don't know what is going to happen, you're going to be protected. So that's why you got to have that relationship, even though the technology and the AI is great.
Yeah, for me, it was divided basically into kind of two categories. One is, are we going to use it to replace everything, like the human element? Is that going to go away? Yeah. Or two, do we use it to improve the functionality of the human? And most of the people that I spoke with, and luckily some people that I hold in high value, are of the opinion that this can really make a difference in making you a better agent, so that you may make fewer mistakes and terms of quoting what a deductible is or what this may be and that may be and a benefit, and you'll have that information at your fingertips instantaneously for across the nation. And what a great thing that would be. But we can't replace humans in this. There's no way to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if all you're doing is just one of the three, if you're just focusing on relationships, that's great. But there's a lot of technology and a lot of AI assistance that could have helped you really grow that you missed out on. But if you only focus on the AI part or the technology part, then you're missing out on the relationship part. It's all important. They all work together to make you the ultimate agency, which I think is what we're all trying to achieve as the best person that we could possibly be in the best business that we could be.
Yeah, there's a lot of flash too. I think it's important for agents to kind of take an assessment of where they are in terms of either time in the business or how long they want to be there and how big their book of business is, and figure out the things that they need the most and evaluate it from there. Again, I think that's why MyMFG and MyMFG data will be so important to the folks that work with us, is because we've listened to what they've asked for and we're able to pivot onto that with our guys in the back in IT.
Yeah. It seems like another theme there would be the diversity conversation, like, being diverse in your business. I mean, we just came off of a 3-part series, a webinar series about April's National Financial Literacy Month, and the big theme about that was about diversity. So it seems like there was a lot of that going on.
Oh, absolutely. And I think we've been talking about this for a number of years, right? I mean, we've got Benchmark in-house now, so we've got a lot more support directly towards the annuity business, towards that life business. So I think even we've seen that and have pivoted. Because again, you look at what's happened over the last 24 months. There's a lot of unknowns about how we're going to get paid. Are we going to get paid? All those things, right? I still think and firmly believe this, that we will still be around, still get paid. But regardless of that fact, does the compensation amounts change? Ultimately, diversification is key to success as we continue to go forward. I look at this from a number of reasons. One, a lot of agents are like, well, I feel like I can't really grow my book because I'm already kind of tapped out. Well, you know what you can do? Have you sold ancillaries? Have you gone and talked about those hospital indemnity plans or short-term healthcare plans? Yeah. No. Well, how about we go and start with that? How about we go talk about life insurance or annuities? So there's opportunities to grow your bottom line without having to go out and market and just tapping into your existing book of business. The other thing to notate too is if you're not selling it, somebody else is. And what if another agent comes in and sells that? Next thing you know, they might get their Medicare, they might get their ACA, whatever else they might have, they might take that from you. So I look at it as, one, I can increase my bottom line. Two, I'm going to protect my book, because the more policies you have in a house, the chances of retention are far greater. And I even found as an agent, if I have 2-3 policies in a home, I typically have a greater chance of referral as well. So I look at all those different aspects, of diversification and why it's important. But I think it's even more important today than it ever has been. And I think we here at Messer have continued to focus on that and develop additional tools and training and making sure that we're able to meet agents where they're at and also guide them in directions maybe they're uncomfortable in going. But sometimes the only way to grow is to be a little bit uncomfortable, right? So I think more than anything is, it's great that you're on board here now, right? Because you're going through a lot of the trainings. And I think just some of the trainings you've done with some of our top producing agencies, we've seen a direct result in those ancillary sales start to creep up and start to grow because we've actually talked about it. We've trained them how to proposition it. What are the right products for the right client, right? So I think, we've continued to really focus on building out more and more opportunities for agents to take advantage of. Now we just got to continue to have those conversations with all of our agents. But excited about where we're going with it, and I think these guys would agree. But I'll let you guys, speak on it a little bit more too.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I took the family down to Florida for a vacation, and while we were driving through Florida, I saw a billboard, and it was for an agency, and it said, protecting you for your auto, home, and life. And I'm like, well, where's the health, right? Like, well, you missed a huge portion of it. Why wouldn't you offer that, especially when that product is covered by the licenses that you do? Is it just because you didn't know, or whatever the case may be? But I'll tell you what, that means that every single one of their clients is going to somebody else for the health insurance. They need it. In our world, in the insurance world, everything grows each other. It's like, you want to be able to help everybody. So why wouldn't they offer the health? And that always just confused me. And to your point about the compensation, and to your point about, 80% of the marketplace, even though a client can go on healthcare.gov right now, quote themselves, see all the plans that are available to them and what they would qualify for, and enroll themselves, still 80% of them, of everybody that's enrolled, has an agent. So if you're talking about a need factor, I can't think of a better one when nobody's mandating someone to use an agent for the health insurance, but they're still using the agent. So obviously there's a need for the agent, and the only way that they can keep us in the business is to pay us. So if you're talking about job security, what better way than when the need is already there? The market itself is determining it. It's not someone saying that you need an agent. It's the market itself that says, hey, I find value in what you're able to offer me, and the way that you're able to explain the benefits and the health plans and the different plans and the different carriers and the networks and the prescriptions and all of that. There's so many things that go into what we do that I just don't see us ever being able to be eliminated from that. So,
to Micah's point, that 20% that chooses to do that themselves, there's probably 18% that probably should have used an agent.
Yeah, correct.
You can look at a line of zeros across the board and not have any understanding of what that true utilization of that plan is going to cost you at the end of the day. So, cheaper is not always better, and most times you do get what you pay for in some degree. But for an agent, I think the idea is there's always going to be something that you're most comfortable with. Maybe it's what you were introduced to when you got into the business, but you have to remove that perception of being intimidated by new product lines. You don't have to be a master or an expert immediately. That's not going to happen, but you should have a functioning understanding so that if that question does come up in that appointment, you can answer it. Or, like we talked about before, just say, I'm not sure, but I'm going to go get the right answer and I'll be back. And then
Let me call my guys at Messer real quick.
Yeah, right.
Get on the phone and call somebody here, and we'll do what we can to help you get that person in the right product.
Yeah, and there's there's two parts of this. What we talked about before is there's, that the benefit to the agent, where you get into the, by diversification, you get into more retention, better retention, more referrals in those situations. But on the other side, I think, what we have to also remember is by diversification, it's more of our duty at this point to our clients to make sure that they understand everything that we do. I can tell you just by doing training, I ask everybody to raise their hand that tell me that you're going after every single person in your book of business and letting them know, at least letting them know what you do. And nobody can ever really say everybody in my book of business knows exactly what I do and has a full understanding of my product portfolio. So it just seems like, right now, that trade show, what you're seeing in the market, that's really the theme moving forward, is to make sure that we are all, understanding what's going on in the marketplace. And to add your point, Mike, you got ACA folks turning 65. The moment they turn 65, if you're not doing Medicare, you just lost your client to somebody else. And I can promise you that next Medicare agent is going to be talking about
It's the most common number we hear, 10,000 to 11,000 people a day.
Right.
We're just reaching the peak of the baby boomers. So to think that there's not an opportunity to write ACA for those folks in their 50s who are most interested in medical coverage, right? We talked a little bit before about younger people. They don't think they need insurance. They're bulletproof. It's a fallacy. But to be able to transition, like Michael was saying, take those folks, work with them for 10 years, get to know them, get to know their family, and then move them into the Medicare space, which if you've ever tried to read the Medicare and You book, good luck if you don't think that's confusing.
It's funny because one of the terms that buzzwords or terms that are thrown around, and they still do, but what's the lifetime value of a client, right? I'm like, I think to your point, if you have an ACA and all the way through Medicare, talk about real lifetime value of a client. That's where it's at. Why Why stop with just ACA when you can take them from 26 all the way to death?
Yeah.
We get into health insurance for the residuals. That's because we want to be their agent for the life of them. So get them when they're young, all the way till they're old, in the good times and the bad times. You make adjustments as you go. You know, I always talk to people now, obviously, if a call center is taking business off of you fraudulently, you know, not speaking to the client, that's one thing. But if you're worried about a call center taking your clients, keep in mind that these guys that are working at these call centers, they're paid to get volume. That means they're trying to get on and off the phone as quickly as possible. And in the ACA world, if their typical average call time is about 20 minutes with the client, they're on and off. And I'm telling you right now, if you're an agent and you've lost a client to someone who was on a call with them for 20 minutes, then I'm just going to have to ask you, did you do your job? I mean, how can I lose a whole relationship with somebody that I've worked with for years to somebody who was literally on a conversation with them for less than 20 minutes? To me, that just shows you how important that relationship is. Do yourself a favor, take that little extra time, really get to know them, and that's only going to help you keep getting paid longer and longer and longer. You know, that's what the retention is. That's what it comes down to. It will always be and always has been a relationship business. Don't ever forget that. And as long as you do what's in their best interest, it'll keep growing. Why? You helped them out. You figured everything out of whatever they wanted and fit their needs. Do you not think that they're going to tell somebody, or that they know people that are in the same exact position that they're in, that they can refer over to you? Hey, I just have an agent that saved me so much money, that built this plan that really solved all my concerns and needs. You have to go talk to this person. They're amazing. What better referral than that? Do you think they're ever going to leave you? Heck no. A 20-minute call, they're not even going to even think about having a 20-minute call with somebody else on the phone, because they already have that person. Be that person, right? Everybody's got that person for whatever it is. Oh, my car broke down. Oh, well, I've got a mechanic that's perfect. I always go to them. They go to this person. Be that person in the insurance world. Don't be afraid to let them know everything that you do, to your point. Let them know, hey, I also do this. I also do Medicare. I also do ACA. I do life insurance. I do whatever. And it just keeps growing naturally. That's what I love about this business. The more you care about people, the more you do for them, the more you're going to benefit.
I think sometimes, too, I think some agents maybe just lack a little bit of confidence because, you know, as the agent, you're the authority in the room, right? And I think just sometimes there's a lack of confidence. They don't view themselves as that authority. So to your point, I think one, like I'm the agent, I'm here to help you, and I'm the authority on the subject matter, right? And then kind of to expand on the call center versus local. I think for those local brokers, agents, again, play on that. Like I'm here in your community. I'm local. I support the same community you do. We live in the same place. So I think continue to play on that I'm here in the same community as you are. And we support the same things. I think that's something to play on as well. But again, have that confidence as an agent that, again, you're the authority. And I think you made a good point. You might have started in Medicare and I've got a firm grasp. I'm really comfortable here. Maybe not as much here, but again, you still know more than the client in most cases. And if you don't know the answer today, give your friends here at Messer a call and we'll help give you the information you need to make sure that you provide the right information and are able to close that deal.
That's exactly right. And I'll give you a good example. When I started in the insurance business, I worked for a company called New York Life, where my job was to be able to help people manage their finances. Well, unfortunately for me, when I started at New York Life, I was right out of college, didn't have a dime to my name, driving up in people's driveways with my cracked windshield Honda Civic and my one suit that I wore every day for the week, trying to tell people what they did with their money. Now, if it was just up to me, what I had to understand and what I had to learn is that, to your point about being the authority figure, you absolutely are, but it's not just you. It's the resources that you're bringing into it. If it was Micah Matthews coming in there at the time and I was trying to advise you of money, I would never listen to myself. I don't know what I'm doing, but because I had the backing of New York Life. So when I give you advice of what you should do, it's not Micah Matthews' advice. It's New York Life, who is a proven track record company that's one of the best in the world at doing what they do. So when I'm giving you that advice, that's their advice. It's not mine. So the same thing with you guys that are independent agents out there. You are the authority figure, but it's not based off of just yours. That's why you partner with entities like us who have the best in the business. It's a collaboration of everybody's ideas. That's what you're presenting to the client. So it gives you that much more clout. Like if I said if you go in there saying, this is what I think, that's great, and you can do that as long as you're an expert. But if you don't feel confident in it, or maybe you just don't have the experience needed, or whatever the case may be, just know that you have people like Messer Financial who can give you that advice, that can give you that confidence, because you know that what you're going with is the best idea, because It's what everybody's thinking. This is what we're all come to a group decision about. So that should give you that much more confidence when you're presenting it to the clients. Don't ever be afraid to offer a product because you don't feel like you know it real well, because you have those resources. Use us.
Man, that's awesome. You get me excited. I'm ready to go write some business.
Yeah.
Good.
Listening to that.
Passionate.
That's right.
Good.
Yeah. So before we wrap it up, I know we're trying to get the time short, but I just wanted a question. Like, so Jeff, how many times have you been out to these trade shows? I mean, for like over the last 9 years, or have you been going every year? Or?
We've gone to this particular one three or 4 years in a row now, I think, and we've continued to see a steady growth and shifts in participation with agents and vendors and carriers. So I think it's a good thing. Again, I go back to don't spend your day on the internet, right? Listening to a lot of speculation or whatnot. Talk to us, talk to the folks on the marketing team, find out the truth. You know, that's what we're here for. And just remember that it takes what it takes. There is no substitute for work.
Yeah,
you know, get your appointment book full, go see those people, learn through experience, use us as a resource, and we're here to support you in whatever your goals or dreams are.
Yeah.
Treat your business as a business.
Yeah.
I think that's one takeaway that I have found over the years in this industry is talking to agents. A lot of agents, I'm just Joe Agent, right? You are your own business.
Right.
Treat it as such, right? Invest in yourself, believe in yourself. But I think that's the key to what Jeff said is you got to get up and go to work every day if you want to see success.
You got to be careful because you can fall into the fallacy of getting ready to get ready all the time.
Yeah.
And then you find out, I've been to meetings this week and I didn't go see anybody.
You could literally sit on your computer and watch webinars from every carrier that we have on a weekly basis and never be able to leave your house.
Yes.
I think as Roy used to say, it's lining them pencils up. You know, I'm lining my pencils up, but you never get to be anywhere beyond that, right?
Yeah.
So I always thought that was a funny one. But to that point, you know, again, there is what Jeff said. There is no substitute for getting up and going to work and putting the grind on. Because if you want to be successful, there is no substitute other than the work.
Your clients are going to teach you as much about what you need to know. Gosh. Like we can talk about this all day long, but until you get out in the field and experience what they're asking you for, and then you can come back and say, this is what I need. And then these guys will have it for you.
That's the best learning curve.
Dude, that was the most invaluable experience I ever received. You know, in a short time I took away from Messer, I went out and personally produced. And I got to say that was the best learning experience I ever had.
Yep.
You know, because when I started at Messer, I was just a marketer. I'd never sold anything, right? I got licensed within a week. And then I was on the phones recruiting. You know, I had no idea what I was doing, but I figured it out. And to Jeff's point, a lot of it was just asking questions and just listening to what the agents had to say. So a lot of my experiences and my learning experiences were just from asking questions and listening. And I think that's something that a lot of agents sometimes fail to do is just ask the question and just shut up and listen. They're going to tell you what you need to know. Right. So I think that is essential for any business, but especially in sales and insurance is ask the question and just listen.
And let's not forget, too, Bill Rice and Roy Messer, the two owners of Messer Financial, started off as independent agents. They were just like everybody else. Everybody starts at even the largest companies, Amazon, all these huge companies started off with just one person with an idea, and they just kept working hard and putting in that effort. And then they just kept doing it over and over again and expanding and keeping their mind open and collaborating and everything else. And that's how they get to where they are. So even though you may be an independent agent, you are your business. You are growing. That's how everybody starts. And whatever direction you decide to go, that's your choice. But just make sure you do it the right way, and you just can never fail.
Yeah, I think Bill likes to close a lot of his conversations with agents when I've seen him present is why not you? Why not you?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you see somebody in your area and they've got the billboards and they've got all the things that you want, why can't that be you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So talk to us and we'll help you get there.
Yeah. Justin, same question to you. Like, you've been out there a few times, you know, how has that, affected you, with being a part of those? Has it helps you have better conversations? Has it helped you, identify some things and put some things in place? I mean, do we get a lot from going to these things where?
Absolutely. But I think number one for me, again, I talked a little bit earlier, the positive energy. I'm an optimist. I feed on those kind of environments, and it really gets me amped up and fired up. And then I feel like I come back and I'm even more passionate about what we do because it is exciting. And there's a lot of cool stuff, the networking, some of the classes, and just the interaction day to day, talking with agents, agencies, carrier partners. I mean, to Micah's point too, the collaboration and opportunities to sit down and talk with some of our carrier partners and strategizing about, how are we going to, grow this year? What are our headwinds? What are our tailwinds? So I think every day and every interaction, I'm able to take something away and bring it back, whether it's to share with the staff or just implement into my daily routine or looking at how I'm going to strategize a little bit differently according to what our challenges are going into this next cycle of AEP, OEP, right? So I think I try to take something from every conversation and every meeting I have there and try to turn it into a benefit for not only myself, but my teammates and the organization as a whole.
I'm glad you said networking too, because that's kind of where I was wondering, like, I always feel like I get so much out of just hanging out with people after the classes and seeing what they're doing in their areas and, just getting new ideas.
It is. I think
business.
that's, and to Jeff's point earlier, we are pretty friendly with some of our competition. So it's nice to talk with those guys sometimes too, because, just kicking different ideas around. And I've always been a firm believer in a collective group of ideas is far stronger than just one mind. Right. So I think that the collaboration and just general conversation we have with partners or even competitors for that matter, again, there's always some nice takeaways from that. And honestly, the networking part is probably one of my favorite things. Yeah. My wife likes to joke that, I could talk to a brick wall and have an hour-long conversation. So I probably could. So I do really enjoy that aspect of the event.
And there's also, I think, a peace of mind to know that you're not alone. And what I mean by that is just knowing that other people are dealing the same challenges that you are. Because sometimes you feel like, everything always happens to me. But to hear other people, they're like, yeah, we're facing the same things, but this is how we did it. And blending ideas of how you can get through those challenges and knowing that you're not alone, that you're on this journey together. That's why independent agents partner with entities like Messer Financial. They want to have that support structure, that the people that they can listen to them and hear what their concerns are and help them work through things. Because I'll tell you, if you're doing this business all by yourself, it can get real lonely. And that's just something that I know I know I'm stronger together than by myself.
Look, I'm not into soap operas, but let us be your guiding light. Right. Because I think there's a lot of people want that support and want that comfort, knowing that we're here to support them and provide those answers.
Time to wrap it up.
Yeah.
And don't forget too, guys,
this year's Oscar for cheesiest.
Don't forget too, though, we do have our Top Producers Summit every single year. And I would love for all of you agents who haven't been able to qualify to one day be able to qualify, because that is another thing. Of all the things we just discussed with the conference that we were just at, it's the same type of things. It's the blending of ideas, the top producers across the country coming together to really just go over what challenges they're going through, what they're doing to succeed, and also the carriers there, and all the things that we mentioned is the same things that happen at our Top Producer Summit and other conferences. So, don't be afraid to come to those things and interact and ask questions, because one thing I know about business owners is they love to talk about their business. So they're not afraid to do so. They're not afraid to give you advice. We all want to help each other grow. So
you've been going out to these as well for a number of years. What do you think?
A number of them. I think over the years we've attended probably 4 or 5 different conventions, and ranging in size and what their focus is on, right? But I think it's imperative to understand what's going on across every spectrum of the industry, so we can be as knowledgeable as possible and understand the whole picture, not just a piece of it.
Well, if you've seen any, and the reason I asked you guys how long you've been doing this, and going to these things, because I'm just curious about what's, is there any one shift from how it was 5 years ago to now? What's the
a lot more money is being spent. I tell you that much.
Okay, more money.
They're larger, grander.
Well, it's our responsibility as officers and executives of the company now to do a lot of reading and research. So. Throughout the day, we're all doing that, and then getting together and talking about the things that we've seen or found or heard, and then having conversations with agents and carriers and so forth. Tremendous shift in the way technology is used to create opportunities. So to stay up to date on how all that's taking place, that's why compliance has become a huge component of our success as an organization.
And I'll give you a perfect example of that. Just a few years ago, Jeff and I had the opportunity to go to it was called Leads Con. Oh no, I'm sorry. It was called Geek Out. We went to Geek Out, and that was in Los Angeles, and they asked me to speak there. I knew nothing at the time about lead generation or what was entailed in it, and just listening to each person come up and present on how they do it and all that's involved in this thing. I mean, I was absolutely blown away to see how much money was spent, how many resources, how much time, how big these organizations are that generate these leads. And again, it just opened up my world to a whole nother avenue that I never even thought of before. But because I was willing to at least open my mind enough to listen, then I can determine whether or not I want to get into it. But I just think you need to keep your mind open on what's available out there and listen.
That was a pretty eye-opening experience for us.
So you literally geeked out.
Well, you did kind of geek out. You walked in and you've kind of got a preconceived notion of how leads are generated in industry, and then I'm sitting there for 3 hours, and I felt like I was back in a behavioral psychology class in college again, because these guys are that detailed.
They went deep.
And what they do and how they do it. Oh yeah, it was.
But not only that, vice versa. We opened their world up because they had never had anybody from the health business. They've always just sold the leads to us, but they don't know how we work.
They never thought about what happened once that name is created and passed on to maybe whoever purchased it to contact that person. They never thought about what transpired after that.
And I was fortunate enough to be able to go and present to these guys. So like all of these lead vendors, the owners of these companies are sitting there and they're just looking at me like, deer in headlights. They were like, oh my gosh, this is what really goes on in the health world. So again, it's just the open conversations that we have that just blend everything together. Even though they sell those leads to us and we buy the leads, we have absolutely no idea what goes into each person's world. So once you get into it, it really does open your eyes on a whole bunch of new avenues and opportunities.
That's what I'm thinking. Like as an agent, you don't think about those things. You look at a brochure or some marketing piece and you're like, why is this the way it is? And I'm just, okay, that's the way it is. I got to go sell it. But I don't think people realize the insight and the level of communication that goes into some of these things. So it's great to hear that.
Well, that's our job. Yeah. Our job is to do the things that allow you to go out and be successful in the field longer, and let us handle those types of things for you. So that's why we do that.
Well, thank you guys for sitting in today. Thank you for letting me host this. Really, I think the theme and the takeaway that I'm hearing a lot of is the networking abilities and the diversity and the technology that's coming out, but the overall is just making sure that you're educating yourself, with what's going on in the marketplace and opening yourself up to other opportunities.
There's still a huge upside in our industry. We hadn't even really tapped into the potential of the agents that we work with.